In this here flicker, we'll visit Seattle's Gold Rush National Historical Park and learn about the important role this city played as one of the main embarkation ports for those rushing to the Klondike gold fields.
Welcome to our Klondike Gold Rush National Historical Park. We're here in Seattle commemorating the gold strike that happened in the far north of Canada. Here we are in Seattle, and the most used route was through the inside passage up to the Lynn Canal in Alaska, up over the coastal mountains from Dyea or Skagway and into Canada. They would build a boat at Lake Bennett, the headwaters of the Yukon River, float on down to the Klondike River's conjunction, and that's where Dawson City sprang up after the gold was discovered. This is, by crow flies, about 1,600 miles. Other routes were also taken, but this was the most popular one, and this is what we're going to mostly talk about today.
And you know, Chris, it felt like twice that long for me. You see, let me introduce myself. Name's Tin Cup Kelly. And I'm probably unlike any other visitor you've had here. Otherwise, let me know, because I'm kind of trying to track down some of my fellow time travelers.
What?
Yep. Hold on
Amazing.
to your. Yeah. No. You're. Some folks faint when I tell them that. So hopefully you got all your faculties remaining.
Okay.
But I expect you don't meet too many time travelers, do you?
Not here, no.
No. So I went up to the gold fields
Yes.
in '97. That was my first trip up.
What was going on? You mentioned Seattle and your friends were suffering. Well, there had been a panic going on in the United States since 1893. People were out of work all over the place, literally fishing here at Puget Sound just to get dinner. And the word came down that there was a ship en route to Seattle with, well, they didn't know it at the time, but 68 miners carrying a total of 2 tons of gold, that somehow, amazingly, people were somewhere up north just picking up gold off the ground. The word got out, and approximately 5,000 people greeted the ship Portland when it arrived in town, and everybody went nuts. The rush was on.
Rush was on, wasn't it, Chris?
So let's talk a little bit about what all this gold is about.
Yeah. Now that ain't real gold, is it, Chris?
No, sir. This is a replica. A couple different reasons. This represents a ton of gold. First of all, the floor wouldn't hold it. And second of all, it would be worth, at the price of gold today, approximately $60 million. So no, this is not real. Each one of these ingots would have weighed 25 pounds. Gold weighs twice as much as lead. And in fact, if you happen to be watching a film and you see a cowboy put gold in the saddlebags and throw it on the horse, well, it would cripple the horse. Very heavy. So let's head on this way into our park. We discuss things about the timeline that we were involved in, what was going on in the country, how Seattle was recovering from a great fire just a few years before. And when the word got out about this gold strike, well, the newspapers across the country were agog with the fact that there was gold in this far north. Seattle, having been formed in 1852, unlike some towns across the country, was basically formed to be a commercial city. Seattleites were not looking to have farms and be a farming community, so they had an entrepreneurial spirit. When the word got out that this was going on, they found out that to get to the far north, the Canadian Mounties would stop you if you didn't have a year's supply of food and clothing. Well, lo and behold, Seattle will be just more than happy to sell you that stuff to mine the miners. And it was the fact that this was the end terminal point for 2 transcontinental railroads. At that time, you could get here from New York in about 5 days, and the railroads both ended right down at the waterfront. So Seattle hired a man named Erastus Brainerd, who I don't know if he had a title then, but basically he was one of the early PR guys. And he advertised throughout the world, the country, to cities, to governments, to kings and queens. There's been this big discovery in the far north of gold, 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 and Seattle is the only way to get there. So people flocked here like mad. The population here in Seattle at the time was approximately 40,000. 70,000 people of the 100,000 who were on the gold rush came through here. Imagine how crazy it must have been. I understand that they were leading horses, if they could even walk, up and down the main street with for sale signs on them. They had banners across the street, Klondike this and Klondike that, madly trying to sell whatever they could. So over here we have a example of what a store might have looked like in the day, with products that were for sale. And here's one of several lists we have here of what you would take 1 year's supplies. 150 pounds of bacon, 400 pounds of flour, 25 pounds of rolled oats, 125 pounds of beans, and on and on and on. And here we have a mock-up of the Filson store, which started here in 1897 and sold, in fact, maybe your shirt, to stampeders on the way to the gold rush. And here we have a site about Nordstrom, including a photograph of him in his first store and some of the shoes they would have sold there.
Now, that looks like my lantern there, Chris. That's if you found it and you're putting it on display, it's been put to good use. Better use it, but it looks real familiar.
It looks sort of like your pack too.
That does, doesn't it?
Now, here in the park, we are going to go downstairs, but theoretically we are now getting ready to board a ship and head to Alaska and Canada. So here we have a shot of one of the ships getting ready to leave from Seattle, people boarding.
The 800-mile steamship journey usually took about 3 days, plying the waters of the Inside Passage to Skagway, gateway to the Klondike. The steamer Alki left Seattle for the Yukon filled with stampeders and 350 tons of cargo on July 18, 1897, a day after the SS Portland had arrived. Booked beyond capacity, the ships were dangerously overcrowded. 9,000 people and 3,600 tons of freight had left the Seattle port for the Klondike by early September of 1897.
Here we have our Wheel of Fortune.
Shall Tin Cup give it a try here? Let's
give it a good spin there.
Let's see what happens.
If you do strike it rich, we'll throw you out. Oh, no.
Well, could he make it?
Getting close. Whoa! Good for you.
Boy, what I get? You found some gold. That's about the size of it. I wouldn't say either time that I struck it as rich as some of the others, but found my share.
Good.
Enough, I would say.
Indeed.
And again, for me, it ultimately was the experience of it,
Yeah.
the folks and the adventure, and meeting so many interesting folks, and also helping some folks. I tried to do that as much as I could. on the trail. But boy, that is the whittling down of it, isn't it, right there, Chris? For sure. Well, this is just fine. But this is real nice things you've got on display and the artifacts here. But you're right, they're in Skagway, and they're different. You got to see both of them, in my opinion. You know, come here and then get yourself up to Skagway, or if you're from up that way, up in the Yukon and Alaska, make sure you get down here and visit this park and visit this big city here. But come here, come to the Gold Rush National Historical Park.